In section 3.5 from our chapter on functions and their graphs, we're going to learn some graphing techniques called transformations. Transformations are some common ways that the functions that we've seen previously in our library of functions can be moved about in the coordinate plane. So let's investigate here in exploration number 1. In part A, we're asked to sketch the graph of this function. What is the name of that function? You want to be able to recognize these by name. Do you remember? Well, we know it's a quadratic, but the name of the function we would call is the square function, right? And so we want to sketch the graph of that. Now, you may recall what that looks like. Just to get us started, I will make a little table, but we really want to get to the point where we don't need this table every time. Okay, so let's pick -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, and plug those in. When we square -2, we get +4. We square -1, we get 1. Square 0, we get 0. Square 1, we get 1. And square 2, we get 4. So what will this look like? -2, +4. -1, +1. 0, 0. 1, 1. And 2, 4. Here is that parent function for the square function. So the question is, what does it look like if we start with that parent function of the square function and transform it by adding 2? First we evaluate the function, x squared, the original function, and then add 2. So the add 2 is outside of the original function. So let's make a new table. This time we're seeking g of x. And let's pick the same values just to see what happens. So -2 squared would be +4, plus 2 is 6. -1 squared would be +1, plus 2 is 3. 0 squared plus 2 would be 2. 1 squared plus 2 would be 3. And 2 squared plus 2 would be 6. So let's see where we are. Now at -2, we're all the way up here at 6. -1, 3. 0, 2. 1 goes to 3, and 2 to 6. Okay, so now we want to talk about what has changed. What has changed? The graph has the same shape. It still opens up. It's still horizontally in the same location. It hasn't moved either way horizontally, but it has experienced a vertical shift. And a vertical shift, how many units? 1, 2, in the positive direction. So what we saw is a vertical shift up 2 units. That was the result of taking the original parent function, evaluating that function. We squared first and then add 2. Okay, let's look at exploration number 2. Now we're to sketch the graph of which function is this? The absolute value function. Yes, so let's do that first. I'm going to just choose those same values, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and of course the absolute value of each of these, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2. Okay, -2, +2, -1, +1, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. This is a straight line, so I'm going to use my ruler here. And there's our parent function, the absolute value function. So this exploration asks us to look at taking the absolute value of x plus 1 for our g of x, and we're to graph that one. Now, notice a little difference here. We are adding something to our original function, but we're doing it inside the function. Before we actually take the absolute value, we're adding 1. Here, we went ahead and squared before we added the 2. There is a difference between doing it inside the function and outside the function, and you'll see here in just a second. So now I'm going to put my other table up here where I have some space, and And let's pick those same values and see what happens. Okay, so what do we need here? Let's write a couple of these out. G of -2 would be the absolute value of -2 plus 1, or the absolute value of -1, which is +1, right? And G of -1 would be the absolute value of -1 plus 1, or the absolute value of 0, which is 0. Okay, so you see where that's going? If we put 0 in here, we get 1. If we put 1, we get 2. We put 2, we would get 3. Okay, so we have -2, +1, -1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, and 2, 3. So let's see what we have here. On this side, I just had that 1 point, but we know it would go like this. And on this side, we have these. So what has happened this time? Well, we did not see a vertical shift. We didn't go up or down with our original function. What happened? The entire function shifted to the left. We started at the origin point, is now this point. It shifted over here to this point, -1, 0. Okay, so what's the difference between these two? We're seeing here a horizontal shift. What direction? We went left 1 unit. So it's very important to get the subtle difference here. This occurred outside of the function. First we took the original parent function, then we added 2. That was a vertical shift. Here we're adding 1, but we're doing it before we take the absolute value. That's horizontal. There's one other trick here. Notice that said +1. You might have thought that meant we were going to go to the right, but notice the +1 sent us to the left. That's another little tricky part of this that we have to remember.